City Council meeting to order. Call of the roll.
John Hawkins,
Here.
Matt McKinney,
Here.
Brian Miller,
Here.
Jim Talbot,
Here.
Logan Welch.
Here.
Call for motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item A, petitions, communications and requests. This is the time of the meeting that a citizen may address the council on a matter not on the agenda. No more than 5 minutes per person, except in case of emergency. The City Council will not take any action at this meeting, but may ask city staff to research the matter, have the matter placed on the agenda for a future meeting. Anyone have anything?
I have one thing, if I may.
Yeah.
Yesterday, the Sons of American Legion Squadron Commanders back there, we had our fly-in out the airport. Mother Nature didn't cooperate as far as the weather, but wanted to thank the police department. We had a couple police officers out there. We had the fire department out there. We had a medical helicopter come in an ambulance. So, you know, we didn't get the skydivers or we get the people flying in because the ceiling was 800 feet at 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock. So, but we still had a pretty good turnout. So I want to thank all the support.
All right, I don't have anything, so. B, minutes and claims. The following items have been deemed uncontroversial routine actions to be approved by the council in a single motion. If a council member or a member of the audience wishes to have an item removed from this list, it will be considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Item 1 is minutes of September 3. Item 2 is a resolution on payroll for period ending August 31st and paid on September 6th of 2019. And item 3 is a resolution on bills and the funds list. We have a couple of changes.
Yeah, on the bills and the fund list, the check to the Sons of American Legion will be voided because the event, they didn't have that event, the parachuters.
We had the rest of it.
Yeah, Mark was in today. Gillette came in and said they didn't need that check, so we were going to void it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, okay. And the amount to the University of Iowa Office of Outreach and Engagement was revised to $4,530.98 for the sculpture expense instead of the $5,000 that was initially on there. So that check will be voided and a new one issued. So the amount in the resolution and the fund list will be changed to the correct amount being approved.
Call for a motion for 1, 2, and 3 with the changes.
So moved. Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Item C, general agenda. 6:05, we're not quite, are we? Item 2 is a motion of approving emergency repairs to Graceland Cemetery Sewer Project. So I see we're right onto that one, so we've got Ken, you want to come up? Are we going with the lowest bid on that deal, do you think, or?
Yeah, I think all of you are aware of what happened at Graceland Cemetery with the sewer septic tank. Went out for bids as soon as we could, and got those bids back today at 2 o'clock. And what's in front of you is a bid tab of the contractors that bid, and our recommendation is to go with the lowest bidder. And not only is the lowest bidder, but also the one that can get it done
Soonest.
quick. So that's my recommendation.
Okay.
Ken, where will they tie into the rest of the city? I mean, I saw your proposal. Are they going to go to the hill or are they going to go back to the west or?
It will go basically straight south.
It's directly south, isn't it?
Directly south. And tie into a manhole that is the main sewer line that goes down through Brewer Creek area.
And is that on north side of Brewer Creek or?
Yes.
Okay. No, I was just kind of curious.
No, that's
Thinking about
fine.
it, you know, because,
That's fine.
okay, good, thank you.
Well, it takes care of that problem.
Okay, with that, we'll proceed with having them sign the contract unless,
Do we need a motion?
Yep,
Yeah.
we
Need a
need to-
motion to approve.
We need to have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Or is that to move to approve?
To move to approve Matthews Plumbing
Right.
in the amount of $16,590.42.
I'll second.
Please.
We need to vote.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved.
Just out of curiosity, why was there such a spread from the top to the bottom? I mean, that's a lot of money.
We'd sure like to know that, but no, we don't.
we don't know that.
No, you know, just looking at it, you know,
Yeah.
from this perspective.
Timing probably plays a factor into it too.
I think it does.
How quick you can get it done, I think probably, or how busy they are right now, probably plays a big factor.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, 6:05 is time for a public hearing. Public hearing on proposed plans and specifications and proposed form of contract, estimate cost for the 207 East Dubuque Street demolition project. I'll open the hearing. Are there any written objections?
I received no written objections.
Are there any oral objections?
No oral objections.
I'll close the hearing. Ken, did you want to talk on this one too?
Those of you that aren't sure where 207 Dubuque Street is, it's part of the block. You go to the fairgrounds and you take Bluff Street. Instead of taking Bluff Street, you continue east, and it's almost right after that intersection. So that's where that house is at. The asbestos has been removed. Well, excuse me, it has not, because we aren't required to, because it is a residential house. And the contractor, we have found that he's kind of laid up for a little bit, but he'll be in as soon as possible to sign the contract.
Okay. Any questions for Ken? Call for a motion on the resolution finally approving and confirming plans, specifications and form of contract for the 207 East Dubuque Street demolition project.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. I'll call for a motion on the resolution awarding contract for 207 East Dubuque Street demolition project, Webster City, Iowa, to Habhab Construction in the amount of $18,500.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Item 3 is a recommend approval of issuance of beer and liquor licences by the Iowa Department of Commerce for the following. A, renewal of Class C beer permit and Sunday sales for La Perla Jaroka LLC at 611 2nd Street.
So
That's it.
moved.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Item 4 is the third reading of a proposed ordinance, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances for the City of Webster City, Iowa, 2019, by amending Article 4, Division 4, to Chapter 50 pertaining to floodplain areas in the City of Webster City, Iowa. This is our third for the
Third, fine.
third and final.
So you didn't hear any more from anybody? Okay.
Complaints, so we're good to go.
I move to approve.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So calls for a motion to pass and adopt.
Move to pass and adopt. Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Item 5 is a resolution accepting and executing easements from those listed in the resolution in connection with the electrical underground conversion project. Be 3 parcels.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Item 6 is a motion to accept and place on file the Planning and Zoning Commission minutes for September 9th, 2019.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Item 7, Item 7 is a motion on request to locate Doodlebug sculpture in East Twin Park. Kent, yes, you are there. So this is a real life climbing,
It's a
Sculpture,
hands-on
isn't it?
sculpture,
Yeah.
I think, so. And this was started a couple months ago from a request from Mo Siemens. I did invite her tonight, but I don't see her here. And we went through the Park and Rec Commission first, and they approved it, and then Planning and Zoning Commission approved as well, her request, where the majority of the sculptures are at West Twin Park, so this would be the exception why Carla and some others thought we should go through Park and Rec, then P and Z, and now the council for approval. So it would be just treated like the other sculptures too.
How big will it be, just for record?
It'll be about about 3 times the size of a normal scooter that we just had that weekend. You saw a lot of people riding around town in them, so about 3 times that size.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
anyone have any questions? Thanks, Kent.
Thank you.
I move to approve.
Second?
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Item 8 is a motion to accept and place on file the Traffic Committee minutes for August 12th and September 9th.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Item 9 is a motion on Traffic Committee recommendation for a traffic study on Prospect Street to include Webster, Cedar and Boone intersections.
So moved.
So, the only question I had on that one was whether, should we go ahead and put the stop signs in rather than do a study? Because it cost us less money to do the stop signs than do the study, but.
You're right, and I another question I have too, that maybe you can address while you're up here, is I see it was a split vote.
Yes.
So I'm kind of curious to what the contention was by the minority, and then what was the reasoning behind the majority of the vote?
Well, that's me guessing what they were thinking, but 2 of the individuals felt that it was not a high enough impact area to warrant the stop signs. From previous discussions, we've talked about it before. And the other 3, well, 2 actually, and the third one was just a deciding vote, and they erred on having them done. So I don't want to speculate on what they were thinking.
I just thought maybe your previous conversation, that's all, I understand.
Yes, but I think it's important to know that it is a split vote, that some thought it was a good idea and some didn't think so.
Yeah.
Well, I just know from my perspective, living on 809 Cedar Street, there was 2 accidents this spring within a relative short period of
There
time.
was 2 accidents on Cedar.
And-
There was also one on Webster and one on Boone.
Yeah, and, but the concern is, I've talked to some people in the neighborhood, a lot of times when kids get out of school, going east, there's a high volume of traffic that's not going 25 or lower. And then I talked to another person, coming out of the middle school, going south, it's higher than normal too, so. Just from that perspective, something, one way or the other needs to be done.
This is a request I brought to the traffic committee roughly a year and a half ago. Exact same intersections, I believe.
Yes.
I used to live around the corner on Webster Street. I still own that property as a rental property, so I'm still there on occasion. And
You actually sat in on that meeting.
yeah, I came to that meeting, and I heard some concerns of the cost of the study or the fact that sometimes stop signs actually could give false security of the opposing
Correct.
traffic. And I understand that completely, and I know the police chief had a lot of good insight there. However, I think this is one of those situations where continuously we see issues, and I know a lot of the neighbors are very uncomfortable with the flow of traffic there, especially the ones with small children. A lot of close calls they've had. I believe one of the members of the traffic committee actually was involved in an accident in that intersection in the recent history. So
Yes.
that's why I feel that their recommendation is valid. However, I do believe that the mayor has a point here, that there's been so much talk and consideration and input given to this. Do we need to do a study? You know, can we just put the signs in, or is there due process needed to do the study before the stop signs?
In my opinion, there is a due process. Other people disagree with my opinion, and that's fine. And you, as a body, can do as you choose to do. You could instruct us to go ahead and put those stop signs in, but I'm gonna ask you to tell me where to put them, because then it's just me.
Sure. Just guessing.
Yeah, I'm
Staking
just
a
guessing.
stop sign in the ground, sure.
Exactly. And that's what the study would actually entail, where the best application would be for those stop signs, if they're warranted.
Now, if they came back and said that they don't warrant it,
Right.
that's where it becomes a problem, isn't it? Because, you know, by rights, obviously people want to have them in.
You can obviously overrule
So-
them. I mean.
So
you
are
the
we
council.
gonna pay $2,800 to figure out something that we're gonna overrule anyway, or we're gonna find, or we're paying $2,800 for somebody to say where to put them, I guess is the.
You know, I'll take I can take the heat on this. You know, I personally would have thought about this, you know, while driving or laying in bed at night, you know, kind of where the stop signs would go. And again, I'll preface this with me not being a traffic expert, a right-of-way expert or anything like that. But I feel that the I guess, negligence, or maybe the cause of a lot of the accidents are the traffic going north-south on Prospect. I feel that the crossing traffic going east and west on, you know, Webster, Boone, or Cedar, those streets are fairly common on the east-west traveling roads, a lot of them being one-way streets further to the north. But, you know, I would suggest putting them on Prospect. Again, I preface that with not being a expert on the topic, but just seeing the close calls, I always see the people on Prospect kind of leaning into the traffic, and then not paying attention to the right of way, the eastbound traffic from the west.
And I'd say from myopic prospect on my part, a lot of times when you go up to the intersection to turn back on Cedar to the west, you know, you always slow down to make sure there's nothing coming from either direction. So I would think if we put them on Prospect and see if we have any squawking, save the $2,900. Probably get paid the big bucks
You know-
around the council.
Right. You know, and again, there's 3 or 4 intersections in question. Are they recommending a study for each intersection?
It would be all inclusive, all 3 intersections would be included.
And would it necessarily need 3 stop signs? Would one stop sign in
It
that
may
area?
not. That's one of the things
Yeah,
the
the
study
trucks.
would do,
Correct.
is you would, you know, because this means that we would put stops on each of them, whereas the study might only recommend one of the streets, but.
Correct.
Yeah, I personally feel a study isn't needed for, I don't want to call this a no-brainer, but it's just kind of one of those things that I feel has been requested over and over again. There's a sense of unsafeness in the area, especially for small children. If it means spending $2,800 to get it in the right place, I'm okay going forward with that. However, I feel anything will help at this point.
So playing devil's advocate on your theory of north and south stop signs, to me, that leaves the east and west as we can fly now. You know what I mean?
But right now, they both think they can fly.
Right.
You know.
It's poor. I mean, I've got an accident there when I was 18. I didn't have the right of way. Wasn't paying attention, so
How fast are you going?
fast. Yeah.
For the
Ice
wet.
ice was involved also.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Don't listen to that in the back.
no one's no. So I don't know. The easy thing to me seems to be just put stop signs and be cheaper, but I don't have an answer on what
What do you think?
what
Jeff?
intersections.
Well, I was just gonna point out, not knowing how often you've used traffic studies in the past to help you make policy. In my experience, it's one of those, be careful what you ask. If the study calls for certain conclusions and you don't follow those, then you're putting the city's liability becomes an issue. And so be prepared to implement, if you decide to go through with the study, I would suggest you be prepared to implement whatever those findings may be, whether you agree with them or not. And I'll certainly defer to the attorney, but anytime you've got a study that shows X by traffic engineers and you go against it, I would suggest it causes a potential liability for the city.
Yeah, I think your two options are either to reject the study or the motion on essentially ordering a study, and instead you would send it back to traffic committee for their recommendation on just putting stop signs in everywhere. That's your one option, or your second option is to do the traffic study. And like Jeff said, then go ahead and do whatever they say, either one, but you can't, just rejecting is probably not the answer, or just saying we're putting stop signs is probably not the answer either. You probably you should send it back to the traffic study for recommendation on that side, so that answers your due process portion, I guess, is what you're, if you want to.
Because our traffic committee has a police officer, and different.
Gives another opportunity for the public to be heard.
Yeah.
Well, I think, that's the big thing. I didn't know they had, I would like to let these folks have the opportunity, at least come to the traffic study and express their opinion.
Go to the traffic committee.
Traffic committee, yeah. And that would need to be publicized where they would really have a chance to.
Yeah, and if that's the case, and there's still not a good feeling, then order the traffic study.
Right.
Yeah, what if they come back and say, well, we don't feel good about it without a traffic study?
That's just a recommendation.
Right.
It's at least.
So I guess we either want to do the study or we don't. That's what it comes down to.
But I want to make sure if we do give that recommendation, it's prefaced with the fact that we want some type of traffic control. And if they don't feel comfortable picking it, just kick it back to us, and then we'll do what we got to do, right? Like that. I don't want the traffic committee, one being in the audience, but another representative of the city. But I don't want them to think like, oh, they don't want this. I want to make sure it's heard. If I reject this, that I want traffic control in one way, shape, or form. We're looking for your expertise to direct us.
You're sending it back to them with that
Right,
understanding.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's an argument. The consensus of us is we want something there. We just don't know where to put it, right?
You want to improve the safety.
Right. So I'd be happy to entertain that motion of rejecting the suggestion of a study, however, asking the traffic committee to advise us on what traffic control means or necessary in what intersections.
So you think,
Did you already make?
said-
Yeah.
you said, Jeff, you said something about a yield sign.
Well, again, I'm not sure what's the practice here, but in other communities where it wasn't believed that a stop sign was necessary for safety, you at least point out which direction has to yield to the other. So that would be perhaps a compromise if in fact that's deemed to be appropriate. But I still think that would be something the Traffic Commission and/or the traffic study would recommend to you for your decision.
Well, the only question I have on yield, Jeff, is, years ago, back when I was young, a couple of days ago, you go on the 4-lane.
Yes, sir.
And the traffic coming in, and the feeders coming into the 4-lane had yield signs, and they don't have those now. And John, you drive all the time.
They don't
Do you
yield.
see- Pardon?
They don't yield.
They don't yield.
Oh, you got the bigger
You
truck
seem to
anyway.
think they got it right away.
Yeah. So I don't know, Jeff. I guess it's a fine, binary, either stop or you don't stop, not yield. That gets to be subjective in a way.
Well,
You can.
it does get to be, you say, well, I yielded, but I didn't see him coming. So I didn't stop at all. So,
The thing with a intersection with both roads having dual traffic, that its yield is literally, I guess it depends. All
It
you gotta
means
do
you
is
didn't have to stop. See, that's what I mean. A
right.
yield sign
Yield,
isn't
but
really
it's
doing
only
the
you're
job.
yielding to the left. Then But anyway,
You give way to the right.
Matt, earlier this summer, it was a DOT guy.
'Cause
He
I-
put
we had that
those
discussion.
counters up the
He just
street
said
on
we
Cedar
yield
to
the
the
left,
west,
so we're not even
then
sure.
to the north on Prospect.
Correct.
Did you get a count off of that? I know he did on Sunday, that's what kind of surprised me.
I don't think we got those numbers back yet, but part of this traffic study would be a specific count in those areas.
Yeah, and see, that time, that was, school was not in session.
Correct.
Because, once school's in session, there's so much more traffic on Cedar.
Okay, so that brings my question or a point that I would like to raise, and that is this. is traffic control at those intersections only needed during school hours or during a time when school gets out or before school starts? If that's the case, then the traffic committee may want to also take a look at that issue. I mean, if that's when the issue is, if it's when school gets out, then during the day, what difference does it make? It doesn't matter. Let them go as they want, but during, maybe there's a type of sign, or we put up something that would, during school hour, or during this particular time, there's a flashing light, and maybe it's a crossing.
I mean,
At the stop,
the accidents I remember were summer, a couple of them, you know, so.
yeah.
Well, these two this year, most recent on Cedar and Prospect were in the spring before summer had hit.
But that was during school.
Yeah, during that time.
I don't feel like when I lived in the area, I saw a correlation with before and after school. I think it was just kind of like you always just kind of had this weird feeling at those intersections, you know, and it was just, you always I do know though, great point, because at 3:15, some of the worst drivers in town are on the road. Yeah, I get it, but.
I would suggest one of the advantages of the
Is that
study.
right?
No,
You ladies want to add anything that you drive?
maybe I
Come up to the
should
podium and give us your ideas.
maybe I should have said some of the most inexperienced drivers. Maybe better.
What I was starting to say was the difference, the study's gonna give you facts, not anecdotal. You're relying on your observations, and while they're not inaccurate, they may not also be complete. And
Maybe
so,
isolated.
Yeah.
there you go. So, that's not to say that your observations aren't valued, but a study is gonna be more detailed and more factual based, and I would expect to be done in such a way that it makes sense to follow their recommendations. It is a significant investment. The question is, it is an appropriate investment. That's the decision I think you're gonna be making.
You know, you have a point, Jeff. I'm seeing it back on the agenda. I'm like, yes, let's do this. Let's just, skip it. But, $2,800 is so small relative to the, the carnage it can create if we don't do this right. So,
We do have a motion. Jim did motion to do a traffic study before
There's a
this
motion on the floor.
discussion started, so.
I think you brought some great points up, Jeff, because, again, I am not an expert on the topic. I've seen some isolated incidents. I know it's an issue, and I think we should put the money into resolving the issue and getting all the facts. If that motion's still on the floor, I'm gonna second the motion to do the traffic study.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks, Matt. And Ali. Item 10 is the first reading of a proposed ordinance, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Webster City, Iowa, 2019 by amending Chapter 46, Article 5, Section 46-206 by adding 101. Now, what the hell that is?
Which is,
Isn't that another traffic study?
yes.
Yes, no, not a study,
Not a
but
Oh,
it
this
is
is,
another traffic item.
that's right, it's another traffic
Traffic
item. Yeah, that's right.
This is
This is
discussing
new.
no parking
Yeah.
on the east side of Des Moines Street from
Yep.
Fairmeadow Drive to Lewis Drive.
Yeah.
Or Fairmeadow, yeah. And basically, we're asking that because the gentleman from Southfield stopped in and he brought up a valid point in the fact that if you sit on the east side where there's, this right? If there's no parking on the
West side.
west side, you have more parking on that side. And if you have no parking on the east side, like the committee originally planned on, because it just is a continuation then, we just changed the end as a stopping point. There's actually 5 driveways on that side, so they wanted to switch it up because of his recommendation, which is a valid point. They have more parking if you do it that way.
Anyone have any questions on that one? Call for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Item 11 is a resolution to approve the commitment of matching funds for an application and funding to the Iowa Finance Authority in support of Heart of Iowa Regional Housing Trust Fund. What did, this is the second year on this
Yeah.
fund.
And it's a match type system, so we pay in, we get more opportunities there.
And it's it's our county in the next, in Webster County. Webster, yeah. And I think they do 37 houses, I think, this year.
I talked with Lindsay, it's been very successful. She was very enthusiastic about moving forward.
I move to approve.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Item 12 is a resolution approving the official city street financial report. Really a no-brainer.
Move to
We do
approve.
Yeah, it's,
We do it every year, so,
yeah, it's pretty, matter of fact,
the DOT.
yep, no surprises that I saw.
Call
I'll
for-
second. I think Matt.
Matt, that's what I thought I heard him.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Item 13 is a motion adopting policy for resigning, retiring members of the City of Webster City boards and commission boards.
So this is just like not giving them a plaque, but yet letting them choose a kind of a thank you gift.
Right. We have Webster City t-shirts, we have little memo Post-it cubes, coffee mug, water bottle, trying to think, paperweights that they can choose.
And don't let Tinny have them know, we don't want them to retire yet.
I know.
Yeah, I don't care. I mean, it's okay. I just wonder, what is the cost of the plaque? You know, I mean,
It's around $50 approximately, and then the engraving, which unfortunately the company that we usually had the engraving now may not be around anymore.
oh, okay.
So it was just something that, and then we wonder also if they're even displaying them. You know, some people will hang them in their office or,
Sure.
you know, I think a lot of them, but kind of gotten some feedback that they really prefer not to have a plaque, you know, that just be recognized and,
Yeah, I mean, if it's just the fact that they just don't really want it, that's one thing, you know, I want all of our boards and commission members
No, that was for you, John.
and community volunteers to feel as appreciated as possible, but I mean, yeah, if it's not something they hold value in, I can see not doing it, but, by no means do I want it to be feeling like a step back either to show our gratitude.
I assume there'll still be a certificate of thanks, you know, just a normal certificate given to them in addition to the public recognition.
we have some nice note cards from successories that we would write in, you know, thanking them.
So they'd have that. and-
Something they
and
could
the-
actually probably frame if they wanted to put on their desk.
I'm fine with that change. I'll move to approve.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Item 14 is an update report on proposed 2020 Second Street reconstruction project.
We had our public information meeting last Thursday night. On the sign-up sheet, we had 18 individuals sign that sheet. It appeared at times like there was more than 18 people in the room.
I agree.
I don't know if what the number was, if there was 25, you know, at one point in time, or, you know, around that number, but I think there was. I think they brought up, or I shouldn't think, in my opinion, they brought up some interesting points that I think the council might want to, you know, if the council decides that we're gonna proceed with this project, and that's where we're at. We probably, pretty soon, we need to make that decision. But one of the things that they brought up was streetlights. You know, not using a decorative streetlight like you have downtown, but having a streetlight that is a normal streetlight, but has some decoration to it. One that comes to mind that I think people can relate to is if you go down, you go over to Fort Dodge, and you drive that little area now in front of.
The new road in front of
Yeah,
Fort Frenzy.
Yeah, not that one, but the one south of there, just that main drag. You know, you're in front of Buffalo Wild Wings. You know, you're at that corner. You know, you go down that street. You look at the street lights. It's a kind of a normal street light. It's black. It has what I would call a cobra head on it, and then there's a little decorative piece that comes down and makes it somewhat decorative. Along with that, the thought was to possibly put holders on there so that you could put banners. So you could potentially put a flag if you wanted to put flags on it. Also, there was thoughts about, you know, you're running the electrical underground, make it so that you could attach, you know, you have the electrical outlet there, so that you could attach, if you desired, some electrical Christmas decoration.
Christmas lights, yeah.
Something along those
So
lines.
kind of just extending our downtown, like,
Right.
look through the, yeah.
The other part that people that I talked to anyway, discussed were things like, okay, what is this gonna do to my retaining wall? You know, and basically, the comment or the response is that from the retaining walls, they will, you know, from property line to property line, we are gonna replace everything in that right of way. The other thing that we talked a little bit about, not so much at that public information meeting, but I have since been talking to Mayor John, and there was a conversation about possibly putting trees back in that right of way. That's doable. It's easier if I have to get at a water main or a sewer line or something like that. Obviously, a backhoe can take out that tree in pretty short order if that needs to be the case. So that is doable, and those are all things that we can take into account as we, you know, as we develop, if you want to include that. The other thing is there's an intersection at Second and Overpass Drive. There was conversation about possibly putting some type of a welcome to Webster City, another one there or something. I know we have one out a little bit on the other side of the bridge on James Street, but there was kind of conversation about that taking place. Also, there's an area there where maybe we can put some larger trees in that area or across the street, because we also have a pretty good size right of way on Second Street, because we are changing that approach onto Second Street, or onto Overpass Drive, excuse me, there at Second Street. So on the south side, there's gonna be some right of way that's gonna be a pretty good size. So there's a location for potentially some more trees. The other thing is, we do have copies of all the comments. if you would like a copy, we can have those for you.
Were there any businesses there
Yes.
that were gonna be affected?
Yes, the businesses were there. When I say businesses, not all of the businesses were there. I did not notice Yes Way there, and I did not notice Casey's representation. Hy-Vee was there, and Fairway was there, and the owner of the car wash was there. So those individuals were all there. I think the biggest issue with any of the businesses is obviously access. And how are we going to facilitate them for access? One nice thing about either grocery store is they do have other access other than Second Street. Now, I think logistically, truck deliveries for Fairway is gonna be more of a challenge than it is obviously for Hy-Vee. Hy-Vee, obviously, you have access, Prospect Street to James Street, back to Broadway, then you come back, then you come around into Hy-Vee.
Yeah.
Somebody mentioned to me, they said, well, do you think that's gonna be a problem with, customers or whatever? If you're a Hy-Vee customer or you're a Fairway customer, to me, you're gonna find your way to that grocery store because you're not gonna starve. I'm not looking like I'm starving, and I can find my way there. So, and I think during the construction period, that'll happen. It might be a little bit of an inconvenience for a customer to go around and about, and there will obviously be that. But I think the biggest issue, like I say, is deliveries, and we will obviously be in communication, and we talked even about having a separate meeting with Fairway and with Hy-Vee to, make sure that, after they figure out what they can do for their deliveries, because that's what they're taking back to their corporates, then we can decide and figure out, okay, this is how we can accommodate you. Because that's what we want to do. Obviously, we don't want to not accommodate them in some fashion. We want to make this as painless as possible. The other thing that I think we need to discuss or take a look at is some of the options of what we're gonna do or what are available to us at Beach and Second. And John, I think if you wanna go ahead and
We doing this one now?
I guess so.
Or are we doing this after?
I did too.
We're discussing this intersection now.
Yes. Well, I think you wanna take a look at it and just see the options, and then maybe,
Did you want to talk about that, John,
yeah,
afterwards?
yeah.
Or do you want to just show the whole thing afterwards instead of talking about
We
it now?
can.
Yeah, I bet we do that,
All right, let's do that then.
yeah.
Okay.
We don't need them off yet, Kent. You can leave them on.
Thanks.
We'll move on.
Okay.
We'll come back to that in a minute. So D, reports and recommendations of officers, boards and commissions. Following items have been deemed non-controversial routine actions to be approved by the council in a single motion. If a council member or a member of the audience wishes to have an item removed from this list, it will be considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. We have item 1, motion to accept and place on file the financial reports and receipts for July 2018 and June 2019. Item 2 is a motion to accept and place on file the city manager August reports for electric, wastewater, water, electric year-to-date, water year-to-date from the inspection department. We have item 3 is a motion to accept and place on file the police department August report. 4 is a motion to accept and place on file the fire department's August report. 5 is a motion to accept and place on file the Hamilton County Solid Waste Commission September agenda packet. How would you like to?
I move to approve 1 through 5 collectively.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Item E is to meet in closed session to discuss the purchase, sale of particular real estate only where premature disclosure could reasonably be expected to increase the price the governmental body would have to pay for that property as provided by Chapter 21.5J, the Code of Iowa. I'd like to go into closed session.
I move to go into closed session.
Second.
So we'll have a 5-minute recess while we do that. So thanks, everybody, for coming.